Hi there, and welcome to this wonderful episode. Today we're chatting with Tanja Degitz, who is a healer of chronic pain, who is someone who has suffered from chronic pain, and through her own journey of burning out and pushing too hard and not accepting her emotions, not loving her emotions, and allowing herself to slow down and heal, really getting on the trajectory of truly uncovering the root causes of her chronic pain issues, bringing in all sorts of modalities, finding way to self-healing, and then helping others to heal themselves as well. So it's a wonderful episode with lots of juicy insights, lots of personal stories, but also a little bit of light conversations in there. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it, so let's go.
But before we start our conversation, I just want to remind you that we have a newsletter, which the link is below. We are also looking for guests. So, do you know anybody who you think would be a great guest on this podcast, or you be a great guest? There's a link below for the form. Do fill that out. We would love to get to know you or have some new guests. We just love our guests, but also a Patreon account where our gold nuggets are. But that's enough for now. But oh, yes, and one more thing, don't forget to hit the notification buttons so that you get reminded of when episodes go up. But now let's get on with our really wonderful conversation with Tanja.
Hi, Tanja. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have this conversation. So let's start very easily. Big question. What got you to where you are right now? Like, how did you ended up being chronic pain healer and mentor and coach for people? What led you on this path?
So looking back, I would say I had always chronic issues and I didn't know about it, like a lot of people out there, I would say that I come across. I started having migraines when I was 17. Those went away after a couple of weeks. I didn't do anything special back then. I didn't know about any connection between the body and the mind. And I rested. So it forced me to rest back then, which must have brought safety into my nervous system. And that's how it resolved without me consciously knowing about this work. And then those migraines turned into irritable bowel syndrome through like a toxic relationship I was in. That was a little bit toxic thinking back. And also university stress. So I was a student. And I did my master's of education for 5 years, and all the exams just put a lot of pressure on myself. And that's how I just ended up always bloated, like even after having a glass of water at some point. And over the years, that went away. And then it came back when I was in Australia on my working holiday. And I was working in customer service, which was very, very stressful and fast paced. You had to answer 3 emails and no, 1 email and 3 chats at the same time. So it was a lot. And people were saying, oh, if you're out of the job, it's going to go away. And I'm like, it actually didn't. It took me going back to Germany and actually, being with family and in like that safe space a little bit, I guess. And it did get a little bit better, but then it came back when I went to Mexico after that, because I've been traveling since 2017. And when I became a digital nomad, I had a little bit of what I would call a burnout. So that was first. I had a lot of brain fog. I was always tired. I think I must have been on 26 video calls, hours of video calls a week. It was a lot. And I didn't take proper self-care measures, like times off screen. I sometimes had 4 video calls in a row, like 4 hours. It's embarrassing now looking back to even admit that was I was doing. And I realized that I wanted to be more than just a freelance German teacher for an online school. That was a great way to get started. But I was highly underpaid and really overworking. So that was what started it all. And then I started having low back pain. I couldn't sit anymore. I had hip pain, and the Western medicine system couldn't help me. So I suffered so bad that my normal life was completely taken away. I couldn't ride a bike anymore. I couldn't go out with my friends. I was in my early 30s. So that was, 2021, February 2021, right before my birthday. And I always said, if I can heal this, when I can heal this, I'm going to teach other people how to heal. Because in my experience, there are not many things that are worse than not having your health anymore, especially when, I mean, it's bad in any age, but if you're in your early 30s, it's like a nightmare. And I wanted that for other people to feel easier than for myself. Because in the first, I would say, almost 2 years when I was bedridden, I didn't really have the support I would have needed. And I jumped around between Western medicine, physical therapists, like I had a long list of things. So this is how I got into it. And I realized I wanted to be more than just a German language teacher. It was getting a little bit old, like I have a very different relationship. I still partly do that, and I found my joy in it again. And I bring my mentoring skills into my teaching and the other way around. So that's really good. And my overall aim has always been in my life to help other people. So I think it's a quite layered answer how I got into it. But yeah, my own story inspired me to get certified in trauma healing and life coaching, solution focused coaching, nervous system, and somatic healing. And once I was at like 50% healed, I started to coach other people because I wanted to really embody that and not be on the struggle bus completely bedridden. Because in that time, I had only the energy for myself and just like, the necessary.
But also, you bring in the lived experience, the deep understanding of how misunderstood people with these conditions are, how confusing it is, how unclear the answers are, how disjointed the medical systems are, and all the things that even if you're not 100%, and sometimes you never will be 100%, and things will come and go, and we may relapse, and there will be my new conditions, we will learn, we will evolve. That's not to say that you cannot guide people and share what you've already learned, even if you yourself are still on the journey. But what is so interesting for me is the fact that lots of these things came as you were living the digital nomad lifestyle, as you were young and cool and traveling and having this kind of a Instagrammable life that lots of people want, of traveling and being all over the place and having wonderful experiences, visiting new countries, which is something that lots of young people will aspire to. And yet on the paper, on an Instagram account, it might have looked like the idyllic life, and yet we never know what's happening behind the scenes. And even having this on paper, maybe idyllic life, still means that there's so many challenges on the road that we don't talk about enough, that make more illnesses more likely. There could be certain illnesses, there could be certain conditions that actually, being on the road, we can neglect our health, we can overwork because we are driven by seeing more and wanting more and needing more cool reels to really get it out there and shove it into people's throats that we are traveling and we're digital nomads. There's a little bit of a toxicity in the travel digital nomad kind of a lifestyle. So I'm curious to really see your perspective. How did you, felt in the era where you're really traveling and seeing the world, and yet starting to feel, burned out and getting all these physical symptoms that they have been caused by, be it lifestyle, be it, the combination of all sorts of things. How did that made you feel, and how did that played a role in your journey as well?
Honestly, I have to think how it made me feel because it's been such a while ago. Like, I sometimes really truly forget how bad it was When I get a 10-minute symptom, which is all I'm having these days, I'm like at 98% now. Like it's gone. But then when I have an hour of a symptom, I'm like, oh, that's what it was. That's what it was permanently all the time. I was very lucky that it was the pandemic. So everybody was kind of in a shit situation, to be honest. Everybody felt, I think, quite isolated. And I came back to Europe from Mexico. That's when the burnout happened. And then I moved to Spain. And probably around 6 months later is when the chronic symptoms started. So I did not feel supported. I was in between of deregistering my business in Germany and registering in Spain, because that's where I was planning on living for a while. And I stayed 8 months in one place, which was the very first time. I honestly always went on Airbnb and on skyscanner.com to get the hell away because I was living in my family's vacation apartment, and it was never planned to stay that long. I did want to be in Spain, but not necessarily in that place. Nature is beautiful in the Valencia region. There's mountains, right? But it's a place for retired people. It really is. It's not a place where even I have my own digital nomad community on Facebook and people use it, but it's a slow burn. Like there's maybe 300 people in that group or something. So it was very isolating. It was very disappointing because the friends that I did have, the new friends, only one of them came once a week to my house to bring me books. I will never forget that. That was the highlight of the week because I only lived between the bed and my laptop to work. And I didn't have a car, so she's the one that drove me to the supermarket. Otherwise, I would have had to go to the corner store. And because I couldn't really walk and not really take the bike either, life was so small. It was really small. And getting to the doctors, it was a choice between going to the doctors or staying at home and resting. And the doctor visit would take me out of order and produce even more symptoms because, the brain focus on what's not good and the danger. And for me, the doctor saying, I will never heal, or they don't know what it is, brought a lot of fear, uncertainty, like as a self-employed as well. Where am I going to be if I can't work anymore? Like, who's going to take care of me? Those were my thoughts. Like, I felt like I was 85 years old. It was horrible. And, it did bring me joy to be in nature and all these kind of things. I stayed in touch with friends from overseas. I'm really grateful for that online business coach that said, I think instead of investing in your business, why don't you invest in your health and work with somebody on this and do a course? And I was like, genius, great. So I was really frustrated and very desperate at some point. And my goal was not to heal the symptoms at all. My goal was to manage to learn how to live with it. Like the goal wasn't even that big. And I had a dream to sit on a plane for 10 hours or 8 hours or however long it takes from Europe, like Madrid or something, to Mexico. I wanted to eat tacos again. And this is what really was the driver. Besides helping other people heal, it was this like having the freedom back that really propelled me forward. So there was a part of me that still had a little bit of hope. Luckily, and because I'm always a rebel and swim against the current, of course, I had to swim against the current again to find a solution. And that's how it happened. But I wouldn't wish this to like my work. Like I don't have any enemies, but to like nobody really. It was a hard journey. And I'm not grateful for the symptoms, but I'm grateful for the lessons that the symptoms brought. And also grateful for having a normal life again. And even more than that, that is something I sent a message to like an acquaintance the other day, and she was like, oh, but that's been 5 years ago. And I'm like, no, for me, this is so present. And 2021 and 22 were the worst years of life, probably. And other people don't get it. Like your friends can't understand, because unless they have been through something like that as well, or they have a partner, but even then, people don't get it. People just say, oh, then you just travel within Europe. It's not really what I wanted to do.
That's not a solution. And there is still
No.
a lot of stigma, lots of misunderstanding, especially when you have symptoms that maybe come and go, that feel disjointed, that don't necessarily have a very clear, diagnosis, that yes, the traditional medical system still goes with the solution. Well, we're going to give you some medication that it will help you manage it, but not looking at the root causes and really healing it and connecting the dots. Again, that's where I think holistic approaches, holistic medicine, looking at the body, mind, and soul and emotions all together in the environment, our lifestyle. And yes, using really the advances of the modern medicine. And we're not against any medications here, we're not against surgeries, but we also know that so much of the healing happens in the mind, in the heart, in the emotions, in the lifestyle, in healing the nervous system, in slowing down, in, healing our emotions, overcoming traumas, learning how to manage anger and our other emotions. So, definitely can appreciate that it could be so difficult to get the message across to people in your life who have not experienced and have not been exposed to understanding chronic illnesses, what it means, how they behave, what is this beast all about. But I know
Exactly.
that through then your journey and your learning, you have come up with a unique your own approach that you call root to relief method. And I would love to learn a little bit more about, your approach now to self-healing and to helping others. What it is that really struck to you as the cornerstones of helping people to find a path for them to, because we totally believe here on the power of we can heal ourselves. Like we have the power within to heal ourselves if we know where to start and how to do it and we feel empowered to do so. So that's why I'm so curious to know what angle, what approach, what tools, or what methods and practices you would be using to help people to discover this innate capacity to heal.
So what I recognized is a lot of clients that come to me are quite similar to where I was at back then, when I was at my worst, and like high achieving women especially. And I literally made myself a healing plan. And in 4 weeks, I'm gonna have this healed. This was like in the first 6 months of chronic pain. And it didn't work. It was all this urgency, it just made it worse. Like the pressure, I needed exactly the opposite. And most people that come to me need the opposite as well. They need the slowing down part. They already have the healthy foundations in place. They already sleep. Sometimes they have insomnia. So that's something, to work through the emotional root causes. So that's something I work with. A lot of people that come to me, including myself, have the healthy foundations, which are diet, like the healthy habits of not scrolling on the phone early in the morning, or not drinking tons of alcohol. They, sleep relatively okay. They move their body in the way they can, if they can, right? Like all these healthy foundations are usually in place, and they're wondering, I'm drinking enough water, I'm eating healthy, I'm doing all these things, I move my body. Why am I still not healing? Like, why am I sick? And the reason is the suppressed emotions from the past. So this can be childhood traumas. It can literally be small trauma or big trauma. So a small trauma would be something like a teacher down talking to you, which can also turn into big trauma, yeah, like, an authority figure saying you're stupid, or a loved one passing away, or like having lost a parent or something like that. Having seen your parents fight all the time and argue and scream and just, always living on edge. So your nervous system never feels really safe and is in this fight, flight, or fawn or freeze. so that plays a role, and that's what I explore with myself and with clients with writing therapy. It's a method that I implemented from Nicole Sachs and John Zano. So John Zano is one of the pioneers of mind-body medicine. He's also written the book, Healing Back Pain. There's people that read the book and they are pain-free, but then the symptoms come back because they haven't done the inner work around it. Very interesting. So in my world, we start with the emotional root causes and getting the nervous system to a place where it feels in rest and digest in a parasympathetic, so it feels safe to actually heal. And it doesn't mean that it's in that state all the time. Like for the nervous system, it's natural to fluctuate. But what is not natural is to live constantly in constant stress and in high alert and like, like an animal that's distressed, like a dog would shake after trauma. We don't naturally do that. So it gets stored in our bodies and it causes an imprint. And that over time, the more you suppress, for example, anger. I used to be the queen of suppressing anger. I used to just go to the gym and train it off, which then led to, a really toxic and really like not supportive coping mechanism. It did keep me safe in that moment because for my brain, it thought, oh, anger leads to physical violence. That's why we can't feel anger. That's not the truth, though. If you know how to express anger in a healthy way, you can write about it, you can stomp on the floor, all these kind of things, then you can actually train the brain and your body and nervous system that it's safe to feel that emotion. So if you're somebody that can cry easily, I can, it's most likely not going to be sadness that is suppressed. I see this a lot as well. Of course, there's men that cry and there's women that cry. It's not necessarily a gender thing, right? And what I help people with is especially taking these mindful little breaks of connection throughout the day. So, connecting with your body, feeling the sensations in your body, feeling the tension in shoulders that even people have that don't experience chronic pain, like pain that lasts for longer than 3 to 6 months. Connecting with yourself, like connecting with your breath, giving yourself a hug, or just asking yourself in the mind, what is it that I need today? And then the third part of root to relief method is working with the brain. So brain retraining. And to explain it really shortly, because it's quite a concept, there's different ways of doing this. But talking to your brain directly. And for example, sending it messages of, I feel safe, I am safe, or I'm working on feeling safe if you aren't feeling safe yet. My body is always healing. And I couldn't say this in the beginning because it felt like a lie, because my body was not healing. So I would say I'm on a healing journey instead of saying I am in chronic pain or I'm a chronic pain warrior. I see this a lot online. This is creating the identity, even it might be your reality right now. I would never call myself a chronic pain warrior because I'm not, because I don't have chronic pain anymore. And it's a very different identity you create. And it's very important that you aren't lying to yourself, that you are telling yourself things that are okay for you to believe, right? And you can always change the statement and be like, okay, I work on believing that I can heal, or I am figuring this out, or in this moment right now, I am safe. Because you might be in a toxic work environment still. And like John Sano says, through my work and other people that do this work as well, there will be changes in your life naturally occurring and that you're naturally going to do, but you don't have to change your whole life. Because I have people that come to me and they say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I have stress, I can't heal. Or I'm a mother of 2, I have stress, I can't heal. I don't have the time, I don't have whatever. And I'm like, do you have 4 times 1 minute a day? then you can heal. Of course, the writing therapy I teach, that takes a little bit longer. Like that's a commitment of between, I started with 5 minutes. It can be up to 20 minutes. That's what's recommended. If you can do it on a daily basis, great. It is what you can put in is what you get back as well, but then also not overdoing it. It's really little by little, and it fits into people's lives while still going to the root of the problem.
So one of the things that I'm always interested in is what gets people going. So you've hit your rock bottom and you've been in pain, but what did you look for? Because you've obviously realized Western medicine wasn't working. I mean, yeah, you can swallow pain tablets or antibiotics or whatever they give you, but what direction did you start to go into that helped you on your journey? Because it's usually something that starts. Or what direction did you look into? Did you look into Eastern medicines or Eastern philosophies, or did a book get you started? I know you mentioned the book that you mentioned, but what direction did you start to go in, and how did you find it?
So a lot of things in my life back then were a mess, like I could have worked on my business and get stable financially, but how can you get stable if you don't have the health to do it? So one thing was feeding the other, and it was all connected. And it was a business mentor online that said, hey, there's this girl and she's just starting to create a course around healing chronic pain, and she does somatics. Why don't you talk to her and help her with her marketing research? And I did that towards the end of 2021, relatively early. So I let her do a course of people, and I always sent her people. I recommended her people because I was like, I'm not coaching this yet. Like I clearly don't have it figured out myself. So no way. And at some point I met my ex-boyfriend, and I think that also inspired me to be like, you know what, like I'm having another person in my life as well. So I think that kind of inspired me as well. And then I started getting hand pain. So journaling was taken away from me as well, which was something I loved. My life got even smaller. I couldn't swim anymore. Like even the things I could do with the hip and back pain, it got smaller and smaller and smaller. So one day I sat down and I reached out. She doesn't even do online sessions anymore. She is also a nurse, and I know she went into like doing work in person in Canada. But that's how I got started. I took the course around nervous system regulation, and I booked a first call with her, and we talked, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And my biggest fear was not learning something new and it not helping me. But I had enough trust in the person, and I saw, and she believed also that it could get better, and she wasn't pressuring me. It was like a lot of coaching, personal development industry is like bigger, better, more, right? 10K months, like all that kind of stuff. And it was just like, she was literally sitting there for probably, we worked together 9 months, and she was sitting there for at least 3-4 months saying, you need to slow down. I don't care if you need to make money. If you have savings, you need to slow down. And I had savings. It really wasn't about that. There was a lot of resistance. A lot. I was like a little child saying, I don't want to. No. But that's also part of the process. And when I was reading Louise Hay, so that's a book I've read before I started working with this mentor. I started reading Louise Hay. I think it was called Heal Your Life, Heal Your Body, Heal Your, something like that. And it said, the reason that you're in pain is your lack of self-love. And I was like, no. And I took the phone and literally I threw it against the wall. Not the phone, the book. I threw it against the wall. I was like, that's bullshit. Like, what do you mean I don't love myself? There was a point to it, but I think the messaging that she brought across was very much like, it's your fault, you're in pain. And that didn't resonate with me. And it still doesn't. So I need to go back to Spain next month, and I'm going to read the book again, because now I'm sure it would land differently. So I truly believe people out there, it might not land the first time. And this is also something I'm learning and discovering, is because I sometimes then get frustrated too, because I want to help people and they're like not open for it yet. You don't have to believe that you can heal either, because that's what I'm here for. I believe in you, and you learn to believe along the way doing the work. So yeah, it was really the universe guiding me to the right people, to the right resources at the exact right time. Because my first year, all I did was nervous system regulation work. I got nothing taught about brain retraining. The classical limiting belief work, mindset work did not work for me at all. Did not make a difference. Affirmations did not work. None of it. So I got very lucky that I found the writing therapy method and all that later on, where my nervous system was already had a baseline of feeling safe. And then I could add more on top and, heal the rest of the 50%. And now I'm bringing it all together, because what always annoyed me was, okay, so I'm going to that person for nervous system work, and then to that person for writing therapy, and to that person for brain retraining, and to the other one for, no. It's all holistic and it's all in one.
You've just proven or shown that not one size fits all. Is what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And it's about not giving up. So as you said, Louise Hayes didn't resonate with you at that time, and I know she does resonate with a lot of people, but she doesn't resonate with a lot of people as well. But it's finding the right person, in your case, to help you, and finding the right way to do it, and not giving up when one thing doesn't work. Just because one thing doesn't work, it doesn't mean that nothing will work. But it is about not giving up and keep looking for the right people. And as you said, the right person came at the right time in your life. And it is also about asking for help, because you must have mentioned something to your business coach. So they said, well, you now need to go there. It's also just asking for help, and of course also being ready for the help, or in the right space.
Okay.
But it's not thinking that one thing is gonna work. It doesn't. There's so many different modalities out there. There's so many different ways of doing it, and there's so many different people doing the same things, but it's also resonating with the right person. Like you said, you needed to have that trust, so you trusted in the person who was helping you, not necessarily in yourself to begin with. And that just shows as well, is you do need to have the right person or the right guidance that can help you, because we can't always do everything on our own, and sometimes just having that help gets us started, so that then we can incorporate other stuff. Like you said, you going back to Spain, and you'll try Louise Hayes, and either she will resonate with you or she won't, but both is okay, because not everybody is for everybody. And I love how you describe that, and you've shown it, that it is about just finding the right one and not necessarily giving up. Like you said, you found the writing therapy after you've sorted some stuff out, because it most probably wouldn't have worked before, because you weren't in the right place. And I love how you've really described that, and really shown how, it is about just looking at different ways and then seeing what works. But I also love how you are incorporating, not having the one there and the one there and the one behind you and all these different, but actually bringing it in whole. Because like you said, it is a holistic approach. We're not just a head with a brain. We're not just a body. We're not just the pain. We're not just our beliefs or anything. Everything is connected. And I love how you are starting to really bring that in, and bring it all together into a way to help your clients and to help people who are in a place where you were. And of course you have the experience to and the empathy to be able to help them through it, because you've been on that journey as well. So thank you for sharing. And so my question after all that is, how would you, somebody listening to this and they're thinking, oh, maybe I have got chronic pain, because I know a lot of us, we just like, oh yeah, just got it and forget about it. I mean, we're not quite necessarily bedridden, or they're not necessarily at your space, but how can our listeners start to think, hang on a minute, I'm on a track that I don't want to carry on down this path, because okay, it's a little bit of back pain and I've had it for a while, but what can I do to not keep going to the back pain so that it ends up being more than back pain and all the other things? What would you sort of say to our listeners to just nudge them a little bit and just say, have you thought about this, or have you tried this, or maybe you're going down that path, but let's take a different path?
Yeah, I would ask at first, what I always ask people, and I talk a lot on my podcast as well, is what happened in your life when you first had that back pain? What happened emotionally? I can pinpoint what happened with the burnout, for example, before I had back pain for the first time. And if you can't remember, because some people, they struggle with neck pain or back pain for like 10 years, and it's not as bad as it, like comes to bedridden. You can always think back and be like, okay, when my flare up, so when all the pain is there at once and it's a pretty high level, and you can also, make note of that. 0 would be no pain at all. 10 would be, oh my God, it's at the worst. So if it is over 5, let's say, what has been happening in the last couple of days and weeks? What has been keeping you up at night? What has been worrying you, making you feel sad, making you feel misunderstood, small, all that kind of thing? Tune into that. Have a conversation with yourself in the head. If you can't get it onto paper right now because you're at the supermarket or you're busy with the kids, you can still have a conversation with yourself in the head and create awareness around that. Ask yourself, what am I not feeling right now? And this might bring up nothing at first. It might need more investigation. But even if you can get to, oh, my neighbor was, being a dick about, I don't know, like the dog shitting all over. I don't know. It's a shitty example. It didn't happen in my life, but something like that. Like, what needs to happen within yourself first? And then what kind of boundary do you might have to set with that neighbor and the dog? There's lots of different ways to go about this. And then the second thing I would say right away is to close your eyes and to connect with what isn't feeling good in your body. So it might be tension coming up in the back. You can describe this. You can see what the sensations are like. You can see if it has a color or if it has a message. Even just putting 2 hands on your heart, I would say start with awareness and also asking yourself, what is this taking away from my life? That low back pain might bother you when you want to run after your grandkids and you can't really play with them on the soccer field like you would be. It's annoying. What else is it taking away? What is it protecting you from? It's hard to just nail it down to one thing, but these are the two components that I would say: connect with your body and ask what could be emotionally behind this.
And this can be quite an interesting experience, because a lot of people are not connected to their emotions. They've got happy, sad, and angry, and that's it. But as Brené Brown has written in her book, I think it's called Atlas of the Heart, I do stand corrected, but Brené Brown's the author, there's, I think, 86 emotions in there. So it could be really interesting to start to learn about your emotions. Is what are you feeling right now? Because there's more than just angry, sad, and angry, sad, and happy. I think those are the three main emotions, and you are one or the other. But there's so many levels to it. It's, as you said, it's, is sad depressive sad, or is it sad like a grief sad, or are you happy because you're really joyful, or is it just an instant happy? And angry could be many nuances and so many different emotions. So it could be a really interesting exercise for all of us, really, is to start to really learn the different emotions and start to really connect with those emotions. Because I mean, you mentioned earlier that when you were angry, you went off to the gym and you worked it off and you suppressed it.
Yeah.
But is it anger because you're trying to get something out? Is it anger because you feel hurt or slighted? Is it a justified anger, or is it frustration that is manifesting and you think it's anger, but it's actually frustration, or you feel overwhelmed, or whatever it is? And I think for us and for our listeners, it's really important to start to really understand the emotions, because I think you have to dig into, why have I got, I know we're always using the backache, but why is it what is that emotion that's there? Because if we don't understand the emotion, how can we really understand why, or start to understand what is causing that pain, just to start with? So it's
Okay.
you've challenged our listeners nicely by saying, start to understand the emotion around it. It's like, whoa, that is. But to read the book by Brené Brown, I've just had Atlas of the Heart, I think that's what it's called, but I'm sure there's other books on emotions. I've read quite a few books, and I know Lenka has read a few books on emotions, to really understand how our emotions are. Because in life, we can't always express our emotions, because we're not allowed to, it's not appropriate place, or we've been taught to not, don't stop having such a temper tantrum, behave yourself, what's the matter with you? And of course, in the workplace, is not necessarily recognize that you're supposed to have a moment. I mean, like you said, crying, I mean, heaven forbid you're a woman and you cry in an office. I mean, whoa, that just has its whole things going on. But you can cry because you're happy, you can cry because you're sad. When I get so angry and frustrated, I just want to cry. And then I get
Yeah, me
more
too.
angry and frustrated because I want to cry.
Yeah. There's a whole emotions wheel as well. Like, just you can even, listeners can even Google it and just type in emotions wheel, and it comes up, and there's the whole range. Like, just, yeah, it's going to be really surprising, I think, for most people. Like, fear can be worry, it can be nervousness, anxiousness, scared, cautious, weak, like dread, panicky, threatened. Like, there's just so many layers to it.
And I know that, in our bodies, when we do public speaking, there's this idea of fear of public speaking. But fear and excitement are the two, they're the same in our body, sweaty palms, racing heart. And how many times do we put that down to, I'm scared, or I can't do this, or I'm too nervous? But it could be that we're excited to do it. I think it's also really starting to not just label something because it's convenient or that's what you think, but really start to dig into it. Is that the real emotion? Is it really fear, or is there an element of excitement to it? Or can you shift it? And I'm going to use the public speaking as an example, is that you might be nervous, but you can be excited as well, and to try and let your brain know that maybe there's some excitement in there. let's get excited instead of like, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh my God, I'm so scared. I'm fearful. Oh no, the world's going to stop. They're going to laugh at me. But maybe we can just be excited. So it's, what are the symptoms that we're getting, like beating heart or sweaty palms? And is there a different emotion that can be attached to it so that we can get out of that, I don't know, that stack of I can't do this because I'm scared, or there's fear, or something, and really try to understand how we're feeling. I mean, how many times do we just, how are you? Fine. Yeah, but how are you really feeling? No, I'm fine. Are you really fine? No, I'm fine. How are you really feeling? And I think it's something we can ask friends and family, but we can also ask ourselves, how am I feeling? Fine. But fine, what's fine? So you've thank you for sharing about the emotions, because as you and Lenka have said, I think pain is not just that physical element, unless you stub your toe on the bookshelf or something. Yeah, that's a pain from stubbing your toe. But like you said, there's chronic pain, IBS, back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, migraines. There's more to it, unless you physically hitting your head against a wall. There's more to it, and it's to really start to understand and really start to develop. And thank you for sharing that. People can Google that emotions wheel. I think that will be a really great thing to look at and start to see what the different emotions are.
Yeah, and they can all coexist in the body as well. Like I can feel scared and excited at the same time, and also sad. Like for me, it's not a black and white thing. Like this is where parts work comes in as well, where the different parts of you are speaking, that fearful part, the happy part, the excited part, the nervous part. And the way I always tell my clients is, can we give this part a voice? And then also, how can you feel it in your body? Like, how does that nervousness feel? Okay, now how does that excitement feel? It's really interesting, because that also takes the charge out of it and the heaviness, and demonstrates the brain that it's safe to feel these emotions instead of having to fire pain signals all the time. And this works as well. I made an experiment when I was in Bulgaria. I just want to say that quick. I got stung from some kind of bee or something, and I think I have an allergy or something, potentially, because it always swells up like a lot. So it swelled up, and I did some of my healing exercises from somatic healing and body-based healing, and I was doing my brain retraining and sending messages of safety to myself, and the swelling went down with just a little bit of cold water within less than an hour. The last time this happened, I had to get a shot in 2020 from the doctors, because it was swollen. So even sometimes with these things, it can really help, for your nervous system and your brain not to go into panic mood, but to respond with calm.
Can you, just for our listeners, just share a little bit about what somatic healing is? Because they might not have heard of it before, or I don't think I've heard of it before. So just be lovely to just explain it a little bit so that our listeners have a clearer idea of what it is.
Okay, so in somatic healing, I mean, there's a lot around it, right? I could go into lots of different things. But the way I always explain it is the soma, that is the body. And on a really easy way to explain it, I would say it's a body-focused approach. And it integrates techniques as breathing exercises or body awareness. And it addresses the effects that the trauma that's stored in the body has, that helps you regulate the nervous system and release those pent-up emotions. So it's really effective for anxiety, for PTSD, for chronic pain, and also to prevent, also to make decisions, like feeling in your body. If you ever had to make a decision, anything, for example, should I travel to Bulgaria or to, let's say, Argentina, right? And it's interesting, if you take two, this is not a classical somatic approach, I would say, but it's something I came up with my friends. And if you take like two papers and you write Argentina on one and Bulgaria on the other one, you put them on the floor and you don't know which one is which, and you just step back and connect, put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly and close your eyes and just feel into your body. Maybe saying out loud, Argentina, Bulgaria, and see what comes up in your body, which sensations. That is body-based somatic work. Or when you speak about something that happened in your life that was really distressing, maybe a loved one was passing away, your grandpa, and then I would gently interrupt you in that moment and inspire you to, I always say, lower the gaze if it doesn't feel safe yet, to close your eyes and see what it feels like in your body that your grandpa passed away. So it combines mindful awareness with some physical techniques, like putting your hands on your heart, for example. And it really allows the client to tap into these like bodily sensations, these feelings, the inner and outer awareness, also your memories, instead of just talking about it, because the part of where your trauma is stored is not accessible by talk therapy. So it's a really gentle, effective approach to heal trauma at its core.
Thank you for that. And that you explain it really well. And and as you said, there's so much in so many different things. You can talk for hours for it, but it just gives our listeners an idea. And if it's something that resonates with them, they can start to dig deeper and see more in what it is. So you've explained it really well. And I love that idea of the two pieces of paper and just trying to, help with making decisions. I think there's been a few times in my life where that would have been really useful. Hop on to our Patreon account to get this episode's amazing and wonderful gold nugget. Now, for our listeners, if they listening and they think, oh, I want to connect, I want to be in this Tanja's circle, I want to reach out to her, where can people find you?
Many places. So on Facebook, with my first name, Tanja with a J, Degitz, or on Instagram, I'm under Making It Possible. And on Spotify, my podcast is called The Healing Space. It has a photo with a lot of sunflowers on it, so you can find it right away. And it's the only podcast that's called like that has a lot of episodes. There's over 50 episodes now. And you can also leave a comment there. You can also email me, tanja.degitz@gmail.com. And I think, that's probably where I'm most active. Instagram is the easiest.
Thank you so much for sharing your time, and it's been wonderful, and that you've also given yourself the space, in Germany to find and to listen to yourself. So thank you so much for sharing today, and all the wisdom that you shared and the advice that you shared today. It's been really wonderful. So again, thank you very much for being a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun talking to you both.
And for our listeners, what have you got from today? Are you suffering or struggling with chronic pain, and this is something that you want to start to work on, that Western medicine is maybe just not working for you anymore? Or are you starting to listen to your emotions? Are you starting to really understand your emotions? Or is emotion something that you're thinking, what? Hang on a minute. I didn't know that there was more than three. And this is fine. Nothing is wrong with any of this. Is looking at your emotions and starting to really understand them something that you want to do? Have you healed yourself from chronic pain and are on a totally different journey now because you've learned how your body works and learned to understand yourself? We would love to hear your thoughts on any of these topics that we've spoken about today. It'd be lovely to hear what you have to say. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.